I'm here with Nick, the I can't even talk today, speculative art speculator. I can't even, sophisticated art speculator.
You can just call me the best 60 IQ NFT trader you know.
You know, it's funny, like I'm not even drinking.
I feel drunk too. I just said NFT trader. I'm a fucking tree trader over here.
Dude, bonsai. I was on a Spaces at like 4 a.m. this morning with Christian and this guy. Dude, I go to bed at like 8 o'clock. But you know, we were just chatting early this morning. This guy Kid Icarus is super awesome. We're going to be pulling him on in the near future to kind of take over some of the art interviews, just because he's incredible. But today, sorry, I'm multitasking to try and get the link out on Discord and social and everything. But today we are talking about some of the top upcoming games. I think you and I have been really passionate about this for some time, that like PFP pictures got to go. Like it's a soulless endeavor.
Yeah.
And
I think that games are just really exciting, and you can, it has like just that real utility. It completely changes it, honestly, when you like hang out in the communities, right? Because there's like so much more to talk about, and there's so much less. I mean, there's always flipping meta where you go, but there's so many more people that are like in it for the long haul. And I'm not like acting, I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm a flipper with NFTs, you know what I mean? I'm in and out of stuff, but like, that's funny. Like, like I say, like never fall in love, but like some of these games, I just buy them and I don't want to sell the stuff just because like I'm excited to play the game, and it kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. So I'm really bullish on the sector.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think one of the things that I'm excited just because the play to earn, and we're starting to see it, and some of the stuff we'll be talking about shortly, is like there has been a little bit of a pullback because once ETH started running again, people could make more money buying ETH than they could playing some of those games. But I think the long-term potential as the space matures, we say it over and over, and we use the Fortnite example to death. We use World of Warcraft, but at some point, AAA studios are going to break through. But the other thing to think about, we talk about oftentimes, is the next Disney could be here. Micah Johnson could be doing it. The Bored Ape Yacht Club, all of this potential. Yep. There could be a future game that is as big or bigger than Fortnite coming really sooner than we think. And there could be the next
It may not be like a top 10 game of all time, but like think about like a game like RuneScape.
Right.
A game like RuneScape never was like pushing the envelope like graphically, right? But it created this like addicting game. And it had an embedded community of people that loved it. And so, I mean, I think that game still prints millions a year in revenue for the company. It's like a 14-year-old game. So
I completely agree. Like, and it doesn't need to be the biggest, it can carve out its own thing. And when we think about the future of business and everything that we're starting to see, is like people don't need to be making life-changing money in a corporation. If you could be making small gains across a myriad of play to earn options, it's going to be huge.
And I also think that there's a network embedded value effect. I'm still figuring out how to exactly define it, but essentially, if you are bullish on a game and you love a game and you've been playing this game for 2 years, you have a lot of money in this game. This game's made you a lot of money. You have a lot of friction to just pick up some random new game. You know what I mean? And be like, oh, I'm going to go all in on this, right? Because it's not just buying a $50 game. Like you're making a significant investment. So I do think that sort of like a first mover's advantage. I could see a lot of games that start early lasting a long time, like Axie Infinity.
Yeah, I completely agree with where we don't know what the future holds, but when you think about the time commitments, right now for us, it feels like PFPs, and Danny says it all the time, like NFTs are the greatest game of all time.
It is.
And we're having a blast. I mean, but when you think about the time commitments, I started playing just to unwind and disconnect after our launch. I started playing Final Fantasy IX again with my son, and like the quality of life improvements from when I played it in like 2000 to now with fast forward, skip battles, those types of things. But, I can only do one thing at a time with my limited schedule with kids, family, baseball practice, soccer practice, day job, this, and then, having time for one other thing. The quality of that has to really start fitting into, okay, if I have time for one other thing, what's it going to be? And so This example, the first one that I wanted to talk about with you is this, voxel villages. And when you think about, some of the utility that's been coming from Meebits, we're actually going to be doing another video later on with some of the AR stuff that is going to come with the additional Meebits and really just being that T-frame idea, but then you kind of import some of this into this idea. It's kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of, a blockchain Sims is what it feels like.
Yeah, that's the play with Voxel Villages. If anyone's played Habba Hotel, it's a very similar like look and feel to that game. But essentially, the idea behind Voxel Villages is that it seems that every thing that we have that is like the metaverse that we can go to are all these very complex builds where they almost feel like the distant future, right? But with all of these voxel things that are coming out, so not just Meebits, but we're going to create rooms specially built for cybercongs, right? That's another voxel-based game. Voxel-based characters, it's like a super it's not a heavy lift to get these like into really fun, exciting social metaverses. So the idea here is exactly to have a Sims-like experience, but like Sims Online, where you can invite friends into rooms. You could have NFT trading rooms. You could have private Discord rooms. So like you have to own the NFT culture token to enter this, the NFT culture room, and people can come in this room and you're chatting just like you're in Discord, but it's a more fun experience, where you get to wear your NFTs into the metaverse and actually see it in real life. And there's a lot of other people doing this space. One that's blowing up right now is ISO tiles. There's been a lot of hype around ISO tiles. I think that they were super early, and I give them a ton of props for that, and I think they're going to do well. I like our game in terms of the furniture, the room styles, like the look and the feel, and the fact that like we're not trying to create our own avatars. We're going to integrate existing collections, which should create like a real synergy.
No, I mean, I love it. Before I really got into NFTs, like Animal Crossing came out at the perfect time for us, because like it was like heavy pandemic. Last April, Animal Crossing on Switch came out, and it became a family affair. Like I was up early in the morning playing it. My wife would wake up, coffee would be ready, she'd play it. And it's one of those things like there's space for everything. Like there's going to be space for Decentraland. There's going to be space for other projects, but the people that are, coming, the next generation of people that are into Sims, the next generation of people that want, either a community or a more casual experience, it really starts fitting this. And what I really loved, I submitted, the Christmas story, one-legged lamp idea, but when you think about the furniture and everything, you can really take what The Sims did well. You can take blockchain. You can take, some of the best features of Animal Crossing and really make it an experience where it's a place to just unwind. If you're burnt out from flipping PFPs all day, you just disconnect, go somewhere, and have a little utility built into it. So that's super exciting.
And not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it's very easy for us to hook in a marketplace where artists can create their own furniture and sell it in the game, where we're not the holders of or like the arbiters of like what can be created. We could literally plug it in so that any artist can create pixel art, throw it on the marketplace, and the market can decide whether they want it or not. So a lot of cool possibilities there, but it's super early on. But follow us on Twitter. We have a really cool teaser video that just came out. But yeah, just keep tabs on this.
That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. So the next game that we wanted to talk about, and we want to start making this more of a segment, right? Honestly, we're going to keep talking about alpha. We're going to keep doing some of the art previews and try and shift more to just talk a little less about the PFPs, because there is a lot of this utility that's starting to come. And we alluded to this early on that when the apes succeeded, everyone came right after, and the Yetis could have been great, but they weren't. Bonsais were great art, but they didn't have a lot of the utility. figured out. And so like there were basically two types of people and developers. There were, I get this makes sense, and they just disappeared and they went under a rock for a while and started building out the games. And you've been close to a lot of those, these 4 to 6 month projects, which is still very aggressive. And then there were just the lazy PFP clones that were coming, and there were diamonds in the rough, and people were able to experiment, add utility, forging, those types of things, which is just a clever term for the burn that Mad Dog Jones did on NFT Gateway back in April. But yeah, and so now we're starting to see more and more of this, which is exciting. So this project here, it's actually two projects, and this is from they're actually part of the Stacks Accelerator, and it's a game called MoonRay. So this is actually not going to be on Ethereum, but it's going to be on a Bitcoin. Stacks is accelerators investing in this. Yeah. And so, and I don't know all the details. I'm just not technical enough to go into it, but what's going to be really cool is that they're going to have two games coming. There's going to be a short-term game where it's Journey to MoonRay, which is actually going to be like a twin stick shooter, kind of like I was playing a whole lot back on the PS3 and others. And this is actually going to be a blockchain game based off Bitcoin through Stacks, and it's actually going to be available on Steam this fall. And that's going to be really interesting to see some of those mechanics. But then next year early is going to be a third-person ARPG that's going to be coming on chain. That's going to be really exciting. You can see these pyramids. There's going to be land. There's going to be communities. There's going to be city centers that people can invest in. And there's going to be a lot of these elements. So I think very quickly, we're going to see a lot of maturity coming out of this game. Funny enough, next week, we actually have the devs, the heads of this coming on, and Trevor Owens, who's been on the show a couple times, he's going to join them and actually talk a little bit about the technical details about how they're going to be using this new chain to do it. But they're also going to be talking about the ins and outs. And I'd love to have you on that conversation as well.
I would love to be on. And actually what these guys are doing is genius. The Crypto Raiders team had been discussing this at a big picture level, specifically Excalibur. And he said that like NFT games, they need to bridge the gap between the crypto ecosystem and the mass gamer ecosystem, right? So you have to find this way that you can make your game A, accessible in price to get into, and then B, like integrate into the networks out there that allow gamers. What I'm getting at, look, they're launching on Steam, right? But they're also building on the blockchain, right? So they're going to be able to tap into a big consumer base on Steam of gamers, and then also into crypto gamers, which is a smaller but more wealthier segment. And so that's awesome to see this, because we were discussing the same thing, which is we need to have a roadmap where we can launch at least part of the game on Steam and allow people to onboard that way. Where, that's how you can get mass adoption. So these guys are very smart. I love the quality of their graphics. Yeah. And that's what I'm starting to look at now when I'm evaluating games, is like, do I like it as a game in and of itself? Like, would I play that? That's one, right? Two, like, what is the quality of their work? And then three, what is like the team? I think those are like the three things that you can look at to evaluate something. Like, if you like the game and you'd probably play it yourself, and this game looks really cool. The quality is there, because what's going to happen is, just like with PFPs, we're going to get a ton of knockoffs coming through, and you're going to be able to tell like what are like the thought leaders, the people that look like they're they have the right vision. So this one looks real solid. That's I aped into Influence for the exact same reasons.
Yeah, and we're going to Influence right after this. I did the same. I didn't even know what it was, but the UI and everything was
the UI. So awesome. That's what told me. Like, that's what I'm saying. As soon as I loaded it, I'm like, if these guys built this for their launch, like, imagine 3 to 6 months from now.
Yeah, and like actually just when it was 3D in in browser working, and real quick, I wanted to I'm excited for Crypto Raiders, and I know we're going to get there, but that was my biggest critique, is especially if you want it to become off-chain or on rails versus off rails, not off-chain. And if you want it to actually become like not really easily hacked and all those types of things to make it off rails. I think that's a really good step. What's really interesting for me about this is, I talk a lot that, my son, when he's able to have his driver's license, if he's able to have his driver's license, he's going to look back and be like, you guys drove? Like, that's barbaric. The fact that so many people, die every year on the highways,
I know.
and then people drink and drive, like the next generation is going to be like, this is dumb. Like,
I remember life before Uber.
Yeah,
you have to go to a bar and you didn't have Uber. Like, let's get back with Uber. Like,
and there's some innocence lost with Uber, but there's some, innocence lost with social media. I started college before Facebook came out, which is crazy. Yep. And it's like, thank goodness, like, you were able to make some dumb mistakes, and it wasn't for the whole world to see. But part of, the gift and the curse is, like, my kids, they're going to look at it in the future and they're going to say, what, you didn't own the items in the game that you were playing? Exactly. Every single game in the future.
It's going to sound so dumb. Like, you paid like $300 in game transactions. Like, I have buddies that, have some money and, don't have a lot of expenses, and they'll throw a couple thousand into one of these games to like own all the rare items and stuff like that. And I mean, those kind of people, when they actually can own their own assets, like, they'll probably ape in even harder. They'll be putting like, 5 figs into a game.
Well, absolutely. And those, the addictive mobile games that I have friends that are spending, $500 to $1,000 a month just because the game. And if you think about like the flywheel of the tokens that a lot of these games are using right now, where it's like 2 token types to fund the game. It's the exact same thing that we're seeing in mobile, except all of that's going immediately back to the devs or the publishers, and they're just extracting that money, and none of it's coming back to us. And so when you think about the future, not just for this, but for mobile, for everything else, like, it's a no-brainer. Our kids are going to be like, you didn't own the item. Like, you weren't able to sell the, like, and I remember Diablo 3 got crushed with the auction house, but it's generations occurred, and now everything in the future, and it's going to be really interesting.
Auction house was like the electric car in the 90s.
Yeah. Max $255. Yeah. It broke. But, I'm excited for that. And I hope that enough of these games get out ahead, because once the AAA publishers see it, I know they're all working on it, but they need.
I mean, Influence raised $5 million.
Right.
So if you think about it, there's a lot of indie studios out there that would be ecstatic to make $5 million in total sales on Steam.
Right.
Much less raise $5 million for like what's like probably like a beta version of a game, let's call it.
Right.
So for me, it's not even so much the AAA studios, they're coming, but there's going to be a horde. If you're any indie game right now and you've heard about what's happening in the NFT crypto space, you'd be insane to not want to tap into that. So I think there's going to be tons of games of, I'd call it influence level quality. A lot of like mid-range games that'll be coming out in the next couple of months. But oh wow, you got a Fizzles 30% one. That thing is going to be, because I'm pretty sure Fizzles, it would be used for like nuclear power or like weapons and stuff like that. So that one's going to be sick. But yeah, just for people that like aren't super aware of the game, like basically you were able to buy like 3 different types of asteroids of like different sizes. And then when you bought the asteroid, you could scan it for material. And then you could also mint a crew member off of it. And I don't, maybe you know more than me, Malachi, but basically there's going to be like things you can do on the planet with your crew, and you can like travel with your crew. So there's probably spaceships coming at some point in time. But just a little bit of alpha, one thing I was looking at is you can find on OpenSea, you can find, there's a scanning property type, and then there's a like hasn't minted a crew member yet property type. And so you can find asteroids on OpenSea that haven't been scanned and haven't minted a crew member yet. And there could be, if you get a rare one, that's, you could potentially maybe make some money, but at the very least it allows you to kind of like enjoy that fun RNG factor where you're like trying to find a rare asteroid and see what your Yeah, so you got like an engineer, Malachi. So engineers are really
Yeah,
good.
I don't love my my setup. But you know, the other thing is there's some also rare attributes like artists, musicians, and like there's
Yep.
some other things that we
And then
don't
there's
really
like
know.
specialists too. There's
Right.
specialists that are like a level above. I mean, it's looking to me like it's going to be like an Eve Online game, like very high depth. You know, like you're probably going to be able to go like super deep into this game. A lot of complexity, but like also like a lot of like fun and experiences. So yeah, I threw some money at it, and I'm just going to hold it for at least 6 months, see what happens.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. And like for me, it's like they could take it a million different paths. Like it could go like a Masters of Orion's path, like where they, you know, they could use more of the minerals. They could make it more of okay, you got to go get your spaceships. Like there, and one of the cool things about this type of stuff is they can kind of let the community decide, right? That where the dollars go, they're going to follow. So it's going to be really interesting to see. But for me, it was just oh cool. Like this, it wasn't expensive to hop into. I thought their minting mechanics were really interesting too, where you could
Yeah,
choose like common, uncommon, or small,
I
medium,
like that. That
large.
was fun.
Yeah, and you know there were different levels of attributes, and then like the crew members were just an added bonus. You only had to pay gas, so it's going to be you know what comes next after this, and you could make money off of flipping your asteroid or your crew member. I know the pilots are going really high right
I
now.
bought 10 pilots
Oh,
just
now,
because I was literally thinking, I'm like, if there's going to be spaceships, pilots are going to be sought after, and they're like the rarest type. So I just bought 10 just as like a moonshot bet that like when spaceships come out, like everyone's gonna be like, oh my god, like because I'm assuming like pilots will let you travel 20% faster or something
right.
like that. Like it won't be required to have a pilot because there's not enough of them. But like they'll perform some sort of enhancement with spaceships that like when they come out, maybe that those move up. But either way,
Yeah.
I'm having fun. It's fun to fall in love again now.
I mean, yeah, that's the big thing is like it's just mature stuff. It's not another goat, koala, bear,
Like
or
Crypto Raiders, we were able to launch the way that we launched super prototypey because we were so early.
right.
Like if we launched right now, I think it'd be 5 times harder to succeed. Like right now, you need way more polish to get it out the door.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the minimum viable product is just a lot higher now for this, and it's going to be going back to the AAA. Like we're going to see there's two types of things. Is the we're going to see a lot of what you said before. There's going to be low effort knockoffs. I could see like Game Maker or you know RPG Maker on Steam, like having an NFT plugin where like you can like it'll be or even Unreal Engine. It'll be like, hey, here's our OpenSea integration. And so there's
I mean,
going
I
to
had
be
a talk with a VC um, 2 months ago, and he said it was about Crypto Raiders, and he kept pushing that you should look at like decentralizing everything in the game. And I didn't like fully understand it at the time, but like he meant like the game should like almost people almost should be able to build on top of your game with your own assets.
right.
And I didn't fully understand that. And when it really hit home for me was when Loot launched, because then I got like Dom is like a very influential guy in the tech scene, super well connected. So there's people in that area that are talking about this like almost like creating game infrastructures like Roblox.
Right.
Almost think about Roblox, right? Isn't that essentially it's more like of a platform than a game, and developers like build the games inside of it? I think that's like where you're going to see a lot of innovation as well.
Dude, I mean, that's exactly. It's going to be interesting when you think of like Warcraft 3, which created the original Dota. Like you
Yes,
could create your own
exactly,
maps, and then Dota
exactly,
became a phenomenon that like
exactly.
huge
That's the thing.
litigation. Yeah,
You
and
want to be
then
the platform,
yeah,
right? So you want to be the Warcraft 3 that Dota gets built on, and like 100 other games get built on.
yeah. Dota led to Dota 2, which was a lawsuit, which led to League of Legends, which
Yep,
led to Heroes of the Storm,
yep.
which led to, I mean, the new StarCraft. Like, there's so much opportunity. We're doing that at a high level, and I've alluded to it too much, but with Nifty Arcade that's going to come at some point in the future. There's nothing formal yet, but it's taking a different approach. And I do want to spend time talking about how Crypto Raiders is going to be doing it. We're actually going to try and provide a vehicle where you'll be able to buy a Nifty Arcade coin, and it's not going to be like a token like a security, but it's an access token, and you can burn it. And we're going to have a few rudimentary games like 80s style type space shooters, easy platformers, think Joust, think Pac-Man, but different. But then we're also going to allow any creator that they can actually come in and put their game in the ecosystem. They can decide the supply, and if someone buys a Nifty Arcade coin, they can burn it to play that game and have that ship and those types of things. And I think this isn't a proprietary idea. I hear it now 5 times a day. And now it comes down to execution. And to what you said is it comes down to like the quality of that platform. And it comes down to the quality of the team behind that platform. And that's where some of these early ideas are really going to be there. And that expertise, anyone can hire, and this sounds really bad because there are very, very talented game developers, but the maturity in the engines, the fact that Unreal Engine 5 is free, the fact that all this stuff is really accessible, that is easier. There are a lot more tutorials to go build your first game in Unreal Engine than to integrate with blockchain, do all of this type of stuff. And so the teams that figure out how do we get from here where we were today or where we are today to here where we're going to be in the next 5 years. And then the possibilities are limitless. Where could you take a Crypto Raiders sword and now use that Crypto Raiders sword in another game, another platform, and those types of things. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, and I think that's an exciting possibility that no one's really fully realizing, is that traditionally games are very like combative, or like studios are very combative. There's zero upside for them to synergize or collaborate, and so like that's why we've never really seen it in gaming. But with how crypto allows like the sharing of assets and like value can get embedded on top of different assets, you're going to see a lot more like synergies, and it's actually going to be, there's going to be a network effect incentive to synergize and collaborate versus isolate. If you isolate, then you're not going to get like these network benefits of all these games that are sharing assets and like building on top of each other, right? So it's interesting how it kind of crypto sort of changes the incentive structure to like make people want to collab. So we're going to see more and more of it. I know there's some cool games out there like Galaxy Fighter or something where like you can like fight with your NFTs, right? So I mean that's a cool project that's exploring that route.
Yeah, and I love just because the way the contracts are set up. It could be an item in a super successful game could also become an even more better item in some other game if there's some fans. Our artist for the Nifty Culture token, the cult token, not a cult. He's a big fan of Tammy, and he's like, hey, can I do, is one of my airdrops, can I do like a Crypto Raiders Tammy? I'm like, well, maybe, like if our audience wants that. But it's like really cool to just start thinking about how all these disparate things, depending on how the devs do it. If we have a community within our Discord that all talks about tech, and we've been heads down working on our Forge mechanics, which are going to be first to market in terms of the depth and breadth. But when you think about it, like people in our Discord or any Discord could be like, hey man, we love this game, we love this idea, let's go create a derivative. And now all these random items, what if your lamp idea in your voxel villages could now be used as a weapon in Crypto Raiders?
I know.
Who says it can't be done? And that's where it's really exciting right now. So before we get to Crypto Raiders, I feel like I'm the one who's forcing the Crypto Raiders talk a little more. But
it's fun, man.
It is really fun. But the fourth game to talk about is kind of, and it's a game that's been out for a long time, but Axie Infinity just updated what they're calling Battles V2 or Axie Infinity Origin, which is going to be, and the details aren't all here, and if I'm wrong, I apologize. But they want to bring Axie to a broader audience. They were candid, and they've seen some decline in their community over the last month because ETH was ripping, it cooled off. We saw the OpenSea mutants just suck the liquidity out of everything for everybody. But what's going to be really interesting about this project is they want to make it more PvE. They're going to make it a new level of accessibility. And the goal is to make it broader. I believe, if I am correct, they actually want to bring it to mobile. And so they're trying to bring some of the blockchain pieces either to mobile or to a Steam type of environment. I want to make sure I'm right on this, but you can start seeing, like, even just looking at this picture right here.
Is it like tower defense or something?
I think it's going to be some combination. I mean, a tower defense project would be pretty cool. But also when you think about some of those, and this is a good idea if you guys aren't even thinking about it, is if when you think about harvesting resources, the crafting and building the land, when you think about the games like Harvest Moon, do you need me to take you off for a minute?
No, I'm good.
Okay. When you think about like the old games like Harvest Moon and how were able to farm, I'm sure Crypto Raiders is thinking about this too. But there's just so much potential for the different areas. You talked to us about fishing lobsters.
Cool. They're doing like a land play.
Yeah, which is cool. Really cool. Like think pseudo
Stardew Valley. You got to go like farm your crops. Like it's very smart. And I think Axie's just going through like a thing that happens with all games, which is that like you're gonna have your like really hot periods and you're gonna have your cool off periods, and they're smart in the fact of like what brings people back is like new development, like new things to do in the game. Like I think like the World of Warcraft model is probably one of the best out there. That's what most people should be looking at, is like build like a good base ecosystem, and then you need to be doing these like 3-month like kind of big like quarterly launches with a lot of content,
and build it over time, right? You don't have to have everything built in. Like they have the monsters, which is a Pokemon clone. Like they've done so much that no matter what you like, no matter what you're interested in, you can likely find it. And that's why I'm excited. I guess let's go to the final one, Crypto Raiders. You've got a lot of announcements upcoming around this, but you launched the first dungeon, which proved that it worked. We ran it. We talked about green jerkin, which became an awesome meme. We saw I've got 7 Tammys. I need to diversify my fighters. And I had the Aurum to buy some of those Gen 2 fighters, but I decided to keep some of the Aurum and reinvest it into my personal flywheel, which I want to make sure that I get into the liquidity pool high enough before Saturday or whenever that timestamp is. But what's interesting is Crypto Raiders is taking that approach. So when you talk about a couple different things, we've talked about you need a core, you need a foundation that you can build on that's decentralized, that people can use. You need to have some sort of quality. The art is great. What I love about Crypto Raiders personally is that you launched with a concept, and then very quickly, based on feedback, you matured each of those. You moved from Ethereum to Polygon because it's more efficient. You hired an artist and you redid all of the art, which most people would be scared to do. You get kind of stuck in your tracks. You started doing these things. You looked at Phaser. Phaser's great for the first phase. You want to move to utility. So you're doing all the right things, and you're being open with the community. It's not secretive. And now you're going to have, people were worried about permadeath. And it's like, if you don't want to run them, now you have a fishing game. So, outside of that, what can you give us any updates in terms of, arguably, you could say the reason this is an upcoming game, not just because I have 7 Tammys and I'm in the liquidity pool that I want to talk about it, but it's not a game yet, right? You load it up, you can find different items, which are cool. You can equip the items, which is cool. If you equip those items, your NFT changes in OpenSea, which is awesome. And you can get different quality, but there's no battle mechanics yet. So what's the timeline in terms of, this is a really good proof of concept. It works. The economy is built out. You can use Aurum to buy new characters. 2, there's a bank. 2, all right, let's go fight. We've earned some XP. Let's go do this. Or if we don't want to fight, is permadeath going to be in the first dungeon, and win fishing?
Yep. So this is awesome because I wanted to drop some alpha. We haven't officially announced this yet, but the devs expect to have the combat dungeon ready for the team to test, so fully built out by this Friday or Saturday, and then we're going to test it internally for a week and then take it live. So we're looking really close. We're at the very least we're going to be able to by Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like leak out the actual combat as we're internally testing it, and then we're shooting for a week after that for everyone to be able to play. So really excited on that because we actually are very very close now. So this weekend we're having a big airdrop, and when you see what we're doing with the airdrop, I think people are going to go kind of bonkers because it lines up with a lot of what we've talked about on this call. I think that's going to be very hype for like a week, and as soon as that dies down, boom, we're going to have the combat dungeon ready for everyone to battle out. Soon thereafter that, Nat's going to be done with the auction house and the gear NFTs. So then people are going to start being able to trade their NFTs, and it's going to be on our own platform. So you're not going to have to pay the OpenSea fee.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And last week we hired the dev that's building the fishing game. And the cool thing about the fishing game is that's our first port into Unity. So it's going to get built on Unity. So that's our first test of the Unity ecosystem, and then we'll rebuild the dungeons on Unity. So he's getting onboarded this week. So he'll next week crack the ice on the fishing game, and I'd assume it will take about 30 days after that. So we're probably looking at like mid-October. This weekend, big airdrop. I think everyone in the community is going to be hype when they see what we're releasing. Next week, combat dungeon. Week or two after that, auction house with gear NFTs, being able to trade all of your gear, and then mid-October fishing game.
That's awesome. Are you going to have, and this is just like off the cuff, forging type of mechanics? Because I've got a lot of shabby.
We're going to have disenchanting.
Okay. Yeah.
So you'll be able to like disenchant your shabbies, and then you can build like fishing rods with them, or you can like create other better gear with it. Yeah. So they'll be enchanting and they'll be crafting and disenchanting.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, even lures, like, I don't know where you're going with the fishing game, but it's like fishing poles, fishing lures, like,
exactly.
Because you know, this inventory is going to get pretty full pretty quickly.
Yeah, those shabbies, and once you start raiding the combat dungeon, you're getting the next level of gear. So like the shabbies are soon going to become not very sought after. I mean, not that they are right now. Everyone's a rosewood, but you know what I'm saying. That early tier will become less valuable. Definitely a month from now, month and a half from now. But you'll be able to craft a shabby fishing rod. You'll be able to craft a rosewood fishing rod. So like reuse those mats and get into fishing without having to buy a rod. I think I lost your audio for a sec.
Sorry, I muted myself. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I look forward to all of the ideas, and it sounds like, once you are in Unity and other, like, you can test the idea, you can put it out as long as your game theory is intact. I actually have a link I want to send you offline. It's a lot of the mechanics for games. I'm sure you've already seen it, but it's basically running the for loop in a number of times, so you can see if I introduce this new item, how is it going to impact my economy? How is it going to balance all? Basically, balance testing as a service. So if you haven't seen it, I'll shoot it over.
Awesome, yeah, dude, I'd really appreciate that.
Definitely.
Danny asked about my tweet about OpenSea analytics. Danny, I'm trying to will a bull run into existence because I spent 15 ETH yesterday buying just a bunch of random products. I don't know. I think it's because it's like a red moon here, and it's just like messing with my equilibrium, and I had to do something. So I went absolutely degenerate buying stuff yesterday. So I really need there to be a bull run. But it really, Danny, was just because like Saturday and Sunday we had like super low volume, and then Monday and Tuesday it picked up pretty significantly. So I'm like fingers crossed, hoping that if we have, yes, I am, Danny. I am definitely. But I'm looking for a weekend pump. That's all I need. I need a weekend pump. I'm going to sell everything on Saturday. Wait for the Umya brothers to get back, and then we'll rebuild this bull run together.
9:22. Danny's coming on stream. We're gonna have a wild old time.
Oh yeah, dude, it's gonna be a blast.
You know what's interesting, and shout out to R Chen, Richard Chen 39, and Dune Analytics, because I use this all the time.
I use this all the time, dude. It's the best.
It's the best. It looks like a middle finger right now, though.
Right?
It's the mutants just saying we got all the liquidity. And you know, your little chart was saying that there's going to be a little comeback. You know, what's interesting is it a, I'm not good at the terms, but is it, you know, the what is
dead
it?
Cat bounce?
Nah, a dead cat bounces twice. I know that one, but it's a bull trap.
Bull trap.
Yeah, and so I'm really interested. I went a little harder today on some of these newer projects than I normally would. It might have been a little bit reckless because I've been on the sidelines just focusing on our project and just tired of it. And there's a couple, I won't even say them on stream because I don't want to impact any of the outcome, but there's a little bit of nervousness now where it's like, okay, like this could go either way. It could moon really quickly, or it could, you know, yeah. And Andrew, like, this looks like Top Shot in March. This looks like Nifty Gateway. There's definitely history here.
Yeah, we all got that PTSD.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say is the scariest thing right now about like going long NFTs is that it looks like, you know, Ethereum could go on a ripper, and that could potentially dampen the volume.
I completely agree. I think you know, you were the one who taught me this when we were just getting started, is the ranges where NFTs are healthy, and we're slightly back out of that range today. ETH cooled off for a little bit, but once it gets above that 3,500, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, is it worth buying more, or do you keep flipping JPEGs? But it'll also be interesting to see as these games start to mature, and as the other investment, when you start thinking, and I don't want to call it altcoins, but when you think about the in-game communities, in-game currencies start coming, like that actually has utility. It's not like an ICO that has promise. It's like, if I'm buying this, it's going to have value. And so it's going to be interesting to see some of that liquidity is going to disappear from these types of charts, because it doesn't translate well if you're in an in-game economy. And so you're going to have to be going back to your DApp Radar, DApp Labs to start seeing, okay, what's the total movement of the entire market, not just the OpenSea market, because the way a lot of these new utility tokens are being designed, it's not going to show up here, and it's going to cause a lot of FUD.
And I mean, also there's like a ton of action going on in these side chains like Tezos, Solana, you know, there's money getting spent over there that's not being captured in here. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of money still being spent, but yeah, I'm hoping for my bag's sake that we get a nice pump going into this weekend. So if ETH could not face melt to 4K, that'd be nice.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wouldn't be bad though.
Yeah, because I have ETH, so I wouldn't be complaining.
I'd love to flip some NFTs, and I'm, you know, I'm looking at some of the projects that I sold out of that have kind of fallen and not rebounded. Some of the art block stuff looks, you know, compelling again. Oni Force looks compelling again. So it's one of those things. Don't necessarily keep looking at the future projects. Look at the projects you either missed because they went on a tear, or look at the projects you sold out of and took profit. If you can get back into them, that's always a good idea too.
Yeah, dude, I went ham on crypto dads yesterday, you know, and never thought I'd be seeing myself doing that, but I did it.
You know, Danny like said, drop everything. He's like, if you whatever money you have left, just do this. And I was like, nope, I wish I had. And those toads.
My crypto dad. See, Danny and I just, you know, we got that synergy. We just see the play the same way. You know, we're like, okay, that's a 20-yard flag route right there.
Hey, well, I'm glad Danny's coming back.
Me too.
All right. Any parting thoughts? This was a good one. Let's start doing it more often.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that if anything, like this, you know, 5-day, 7-day pullback or whatever with OpenSea, but you still see, I think there's just a wave coming into this space. I think you just got to be smart with your exposure levels to different areas of the ecosystem. And I think gaming is going to be a big one. So I think if you do your own research, not financial advice, but gaming's going to be big, and I think that they're more long-term bets than like flipping, profile pics and stuff like that. But if you position your chips in the right spots and you catch a huge amount of inflows, it could work out very well. And at the end of the day, if you like the game and you get to play it, then you're a little bit less worried about that quick return on investment.
Great advice as always. Francisco, we'll talk about Solano Valley in the future. I've seen it, but I haven't done any research. And if any of you all have any advice on the games that we should cover, join our Discord. It's NFT. Here, I'll just put it down here. You can join it at nftcult.art, and you can get in our Discord. And we'll try and make this either a weekly or bi-weekly segment. Next week, we're going to be going deep into MoonRay. And Danny, can't wait to have you on stream with Nick, and everyone. Have a good one.